Welcome to another episode of the PMD Tea Buyers Club. I'm your host, Dananjaya. It's episode 41, 41. Really got to roll back into the episodes now. Really got to roll. I'm liking the feel. November 2nd, start of a new month, almost at the end of the year. What's been happening? First and foremost, if anyone wants a job, I want you guys to hit me up, send your CV into info@pmdt.co.uk. We're looking for a new international marketing manager. Mev has left, so big shout out to Mev. Thank you so much for all your work up here, but he's moving on to other places and we've got to fill his role. So if anyone wants to work in a growing company, anyone wants to work with me, and I think that has to be the highlight of taking on this job, then send in your CV to info@pmdt.co.uk. It's not a UK based role, it's a role based in Sri Lanka, in sunny Sri Lanka, on the estates and in Petta. So I can't think of anywhere better to work. If you want to do a job like that, send in your CV or even make a video, tag us in it and get my attention. So that's what we're looking for. What have we got today? I'm going to do this as a two-part tasting today. 5 estates, moving away from the 3 or 4 that we've usually had, going to 5. I've got another 5 estates to taste from the same region, and I didn't want to do it as a 10-part tea tasting because then you guys will forget what I said on cup 1 and I'll forget and it'll just be too much work. But 2 parts. Part 1 is going to drop tomorrow because I'm shooting this on Monday. It's 9:45, that's how much I love you guys. And then I'm going to shoot the next one maybe on Wednesday or even Thursday morning and we'll drop it then. So let's get straight into it. The region that we're tasting today is known as Talawakelle. Talawakelle is in the Dimbula region. It produces some of Dimbula's most wonderfully tasting teas. I know the region really well. It's one of the first regions that I went to learn about tea because the Tea Research Institute is just north of Talawakelle town. So if you think of, we talked last week about Muscalia. So to get to Muscalia, you come through Hatton. So you pass Avisava, the Guinea into Hatton, and then you can either come down from Hatton into Muscalia. If you're heading to Talawakelle, you pass on from Hatton and then you carry up towards the Kotmale Oya and then towards the Great Western Range of the mountains as if you're heading towards Norelia, and then through that you will pass the Talawakelle region. Now the Talawakelle region produces some of Dimbula's best teas. No one can dispute that. Its teas go into world famous blends the world over. A lot of people who have, that typical English breakfast taste they pick it from this region as well. What I love about these teas, especially during the seasonal time, is that because they're growing at a higher elevation, because of the different microclimate from some of the other regions like the Agras or the Muscalias, they're not as heavy, they're a little lighter, but they just have so much more flavor coming in them. And they make wonderful all-day types of tea, or even more sort of, depending on where you're getting your tea from, and depending on how the manufacturer's made, they make wonderful, lighter afternoon teas, full of flavor if you make them properly and if the seasonal factors are hit. Again, this isn't a seasonal tea tasting. This is picking up who are the guys to look out for come season time. So we usually buy up some nice Talawakelles for some of our clients. They want specific types of tea, usually BOPs, usually Pecco grades. Some of them want some BOPFs as well, but again, they're mainly focusing on flavor. So same principle that we do with all the others. It's looking at, who's making good tea out of season. So let's start off. Starting off with Bearwell Estate, an estate that we know well. It's, what can I say about Bearwell? It's an all-season type of tea. It's tea here typically grows at about 1,200 feet in elevation. Bearwell is a pretty large estate. It's about 425 hectares in size, and there's a nice split. There's a 50-50 split, almost a 50-50 split between VP, which is vegetatively propagated, and old seedling tea. Why is old seedling tea important? If you guys head towards, I think it's episode 34 or 35, where Asankar and I talked about seedling tea on Murray, click on that link. In fact, I'll link it up here, and you guys can have a look. Let's have a look at this leaf. Wonderful BOP leaf, comes off the hand like silk. There's no brown particles, which is nice to see. Even leaf, very, very even leaf. Everything is graded to size. It's good to see this because a lot of the upcountry estates now are finding it hard to grade, and you're getting almost a BOPF dust one type of tea hanging around in the BOP. Let's have a look at the smell. Typical fresh tea smell, but nothing big coming out. No big nose. Nothing that hits me like a wow factor. Nothing that hits me as a wow factor. Now, Bearwell usually makes a very nice all-season type of tea. Let's have a look at the actual infusion itself. How many of you guys watched the rugby this weekend? You see Sonny Bill Williams' offload, you see Marlonu's sidestep. All black everything. That's what we guys got here. All black everything. Wonderful smell on the nose. Nice, just fresh flavored smell. Almost like rose petals. Very, very rosy note coming through this. Oh, by the way, big shout out to Jan, who got in contact with me to say that his wife really enjoyed the teas. He also asked why is there a flowery note in the tea. That's because, Jan, it's real Ceylon tea. Real Ceylon tea picked at seasonal time will have this flowery, rosy note to it, and the tea that he's referring to is the Murray seasonal tea. So if you guys haven't tried our Planters Breakfast, try it out. Let's have a look at this cup. Very thick, very, very thick liquoring tea today, much thicker than the Strathspeys and the Murrays that we saw last week. No golden rim to it. I think this is going to be a very thick, nice bodied tea. Let's give it a go. I'm pleasantly surprised. A little thin on the palate, but just has that light, fragrant feeling that Bearwell is known for. It's not the seasonal tea, I'm going to say this again with all these, but you know what, this is a very easy sipping tea. I wouldn't sip this with milk. This is a very easy sipping tea, and you know what, Bearwell is known as an all-season tea. This is a very easy sipping tea, I quite like it. Good start to the show, good start to Talawakelle. Let's have a look at the next one. Next estate is Dessford. Dessford, again, same region, Talawakelle, Dessford is known, especially during the seasonal time, produces a very light tea, full of flavour. I mean, Dessford teas, when you open the sample boxes, or you open the sample packets, you can smell a Dessford tea simply because of its fragrance. This tea here, let's have a look at the fragrance on this. Yeah, you're getting a slight nose of that typical Dessford flavour. It's almost like opening a packet of dates or figs, almost like a fig-like smell coming from this tea. Yeah, that's what it is, figs. Almost like a fig-like smell coming from this tea. Wonderful leaf, very black, very little brown particles. Nice even leaf, wonderful, wonderful even leaf. Nice particle sizes. I'm really impressed with the grading here from these Talawakelle teas. Really, really lovely nose on this one. Nice fig smell. Let's have a look at this infusion. You know what? The infusion, actually, for a tea outside of season, you're getting a little coppery brightness. Oh man, that is a wonderful, wonderful nose. If the smell was good in that, this really does smell like when you bite into a fig. And if you smell a fig, if you bite into a fig and you just get that figgy smell, I feel like eating this actually. For a second I was about to put this in my mouth and eat it. That's how good this tea smells. And one day, when Apple makes the ice sniff, I should actually trademark that, the ice sniff. I'll be able to take a picture or do something with my phone and you guys will be able to sniff what I'm sniffing. This is a serious smell. Wonderful smelling tea. Dessford is known for it. So Dessford's split. Again, Dessford, in terms of size, you're looking at about 430 hectares. So all of these upcountry estates are very large places. Again, you're looking at almost a 50-50 split. I think there's more of a weighting towards the seedling, if I'm not mistaken. So probably about 55-45 if you go with something like that. Let's have a look at this cup. Probably a little darker than your Bearwell. A little darker, not as bright though. Doesn't have that brightness to the cup. Let's give this a taste. You know what? I'm kind of disappointed. Coming up from the Bearwell, it's a drop in the Dessford. I'm a little disappointed from the smell of the tea in the dry leaf and also in the infusion. Looking at the infusion, where there was a little brightness to it, the tea lacks depth. It's lacking flavour. there's not really any note that I'm getting on the sides of my mouth, in the mid palate. It's a very thin-bodied tea. It really is lacking flavour. It's not the type of Dessford that I know. There is no fragrance in the actual cup. There's no flavour in the actual cup. So a little disappointed with that Dessford. Not the type of Dessford that I know or I'm used to. So Great Western. Great Western is the next estate we've got here. Great Western is probably one of my favourite estates. I think we used the line of it up last year. It's a beautiful, beautiful estate. So when you come into Talawakelle, you've got two major things in Talawakelle. You've got the Kotmale Oya that runs through that region, or that microclimate, and then you've got the Great Western range of mountains. And Great Western is obviously on that side of the mountain range. It is a very large estate. It's probably one of Talawakelle's largest estates. It's about 628 hectares. So for you to be the manager of Great Western, you've got a lot of tea under your cultivation, and a lot of people as well. Again, you're looking at about a more than 50% split, I'd say, close to 60-40, somewhere around that area between old seedling tea, which is the higher percentage on this estate, to the VP. Now the difference, just to quickly let you guys know, is that with old seedling tea, these are from tea seeds, and that's what gives each tea its uniqueness. Each tea plant is different to the plant next to it. Watch episode 35 or 34, I'm not sure which one it is, where I'm on Bearwell Estate talking about seedling tea. The rest of it is VP, and VP teas are teas that you specifically pick out for a type of characteristic. Maybe it's the fact that it yields a lot of tea, and it's a good clone, something like a 2025. Maybe it's a quality tea characteristic like an N2 or a KO25. But there's always a split on a plantation, because you never want to have it weighted, too much one way. So let's have a look at this Great Western tea. You're sitting at probably a higher elevation in Great Western than the other two. So usually these teas come in a little lighter. I know that we used a line of this up last year, but it was a little too light for my liking. Wonderful flavoured tea, but a little too light for the liking. Again, good leaf. Very impressed with the Talawakelle grading. Very, very impressed. Comes off the hand like silk. Grading is good. Slight brown particle in this tea, more so than the others. Let's have a smell. Not much on the nose. There isn't a lot on there. I can't really smell anything. I'm getting BOP grade in my beard, which is always good, by the way. In fact, I hear it's No Shave November. I've heard of Movember, but I've never heard of No Shave November. So, me, I like to be ahead of the curve. I was No Shave September. Some of you guys are going to catch up this month. In fact, if you're growing a beard, guys, take a picture, tag me in it. I'd love to know. If you want any beard care tips, hit me up. Actually, don't ask me for any beard care tips. I don't even know if I'm doing it right. If you've got any beard care tips, put them in the comment section below. Let's have a look at this tea. Let's have a look. Largest leaf size, I would say, from all the others. Very, very bright looking tea. The brightest out of all of them so far. No smell on the nose though. Nothing. Very flat smell. Almost like an old tea. I wouldn't say an old tea, but a slight fresh tea smell, but nothing big at all. Nothing big, nothing special. There's nothing that you smell in this tea and think, oh wow, what is that? Let me try it. Let's have a look at the cup. Little lighter, but you'd expect that. You're going up in elevation. You're about 100 meters or so higher than Dessford and from Bearwell. It's not really much brightness in the cup. A little dull looking in the cup. Let's give it a taste. Typical Great Western, because you're going up in elevation. It's lighter, but in the mid palate, you're just picking up this light, fragrant tea flavour, that you get from that Kotmale Oya range. It sits. Yeah, just slightly in the mid palate. Nothing on the sides, nothing on the back, nothing at the front of your tongue. It's a very flat tea, very flat. For me, it seems like there's been a lot of rain up here on this side, and there has been. And I think you're getting a lot of water in the leaf. You're not getting that flavour coming out. the bush isn't under any strain. You've got to have a bit of strain in the bush. That's why when someone said to me, look, they don't deal well with pressure, I was like, why not? Pressure creates diamonds, right? Let's have a look at the next tea. Not too impressed by that Great Western. The next tea is Holyrood Estate. Holyrood is a big estate. It's about 492 hectares, sitting at about 1,003 meters in elevation. Again, you're getting a nice split between 50-50 of, actually no, not 50-50 of Holyrood. You're looking at about 70-30. Roughly 70-30 is the split between VP and Old Seedling Tea. Old Seedling Tea makes up the bulk of it, touching on that 70%. The last bit is that 30%. Let's have a look at this tea. Now, here's an interesting fun fact about Holyrood. If you get sent to Holyrood Estate to work, not on a holiday, but oh no, two interesting fun facts about Holyrood. Interesting fact number one, it's probably the only estate that I know, or maybe there's another one, probably Rosella over in Hatton, if I'm right. But Holyrood definitely has the train line. If you ever take the train up to Nanway, the train passes through Holyrood Estate. It is a wonderful train ride to take. I highly recommend if you guys are ever planning to go up that way, take the train, don't drive. I mean, driving is nice, but you know the train is a wonderful, wonderful train ride. Take the train from Hatton all the way to Nanway. You pass through Holyrood Tea Estate. It is a wonderful, wonderful trip. Let's have a look at this leaf. Now, doesn't come off the hand like silk, but is black. Doesn't have much brown particles. Let's give this tea a sniff. Nothing. Nothing at all. No smell, no fragrance, nothing in the tea. Let's have a look at the infusion. Smell in the infusion. Now you're picking up a real tea smell. Getting a bit of cypress. Almost like a blueberry-ish flavour. This smells like morning. Almost getting like a blueberry kind of flavour in this tea. Holyrood lies, it's a beautiful estate, lies on the Kotmale Oya on one side. The other side of it, the morning slopes of the Great Western Range. It is a wonderful estate. It's a picturesque estate and it makes some quality tea. In fact, we have a major customer of ours whose favourite tea is this Holyrood. So let's have a taste of this. Cup looks nice and bright, looks a lot thicker. I'm expecting a lot from this Holyrood. It's one of my favourite estates as well. Flavour, lacking. Taste, lacking. Look, Holyrood, you've got to give me something to work with because there's nothing in that tea. That's the flattest of all four. That's a complete pass. Terrible tasting tea at the moment from Holyrood. Usually seasonally they make some good tea, but I don't know what the hell's going on there. Let's move on to the last one. This is your classical English breakfast tea. It's almost touching the Nanway region it's almost touching the Nanway boundary, this estate. Very large estate, about 400-ish so hectares. Somerset, it's a quality market. A lot of tea brands around the world use Somerset in their English breakfast blends. It makes a typical English breakfast tea. It's a very, very nice estate. In fact, my first time I ever remember learning about Somerset or even tasting Somerset was in the tasting room. Someone opened up a sample tin and I was standing next to them and I was like, wow, what is that? And I just looked over and I looked at the tin and the tea was, I still remember, it was an upcountry Pecco grade of tea and the tea looked green. It had this greenish yellow hue to it. It wasn't black, greenish yellow hue, amazing, amazing smell. And I turned around and said, what the hell is that? And they were like, this is Somerset Pecco. And at that point I was like, I've got to taste that tea. Amazing flavour, I will never forget the flavour of that tea. Full of flavour, very light though. And during the seasonal time, in that Dimbula Talawakelle Nanway region, you can adjust the manufacture. When you've got a lot of flavour in the leaf, you can adjust the manufacture to bring out less strength but more flavour in the cup. And sometimes, if you want to, you You can either have it as a plain straight tea, or you can add that as a quality component to your tea blend that you can use throughout the year to add that X factor to that blend. And that's exactly what a lot of tea houses do with Somerset. They produce a wonderful seasonal tea, and to be honest, not taking anything away from any of these other estates, but Somerset at the seasonal time, if they make a seasonal pecker or a seasonal BOP with that changed manufacture, no one can touch them. Nobody can touch them at that time of year. Personally, for me, let's have a look at this leaf. It doesn't have that green shine to it, or that yellow characteristic that I just told you about. Again, BOP leaf, little brown, little stalky as well. Feels a bit grainy, you know. Feels a bit grainy. It doesn't have that silkiness that the Dessford had. The Dessford just had this very nice silkiness, and so did the Bearwell. The Bearwell most certainly has this wonderful silkiness that comes off the hand. Somerset, a little grainy. Particle size is a little small compared to the others. Grading looks okay, however, could improve. Could improve a little. It's a little mixed. There seems to be a little bit of BOPF in this leaf. I'm not too happy with that grading personally from this. Let's have a smell. Slight hint of that typical Somerset smell that you usually get. Now, Somerset teas seasonally give this wonderful oakiness that comes out in the tea as well. But I don't think, well, I know that we won't most probably taste that here. Let's have a look. Used, can make a good English breakfast tea. Let's have a look at this infusion. Oh, there's that Somerset Talawakelle flavour coming out. Big nose, big nose. Really giving out a nice flowery, blueberry, slight earthy note coming out in this tea. It's actually a very nice smelling tea, but it lacks that coppery green hue to the infusion. Let's have a look at the cup. Much darker, much darker. No golden rim. Let's give this a go. That's bad. That's a bad tea. There is nothing in it like the Holyrood. There's nothing in the mid palate. There's just nothing. On the whole, Talawakelle, one of my favourite regions, has not done well in part 1. There is a part 2. I hope I've just selected all the 5 worst samples, and then there's a good 5 waiting for us to taste. On the whole, guys, I thought this was bad. I'm not even going to bother to rank them up today, because really the only one that probably stood out for me is probably this Bearwell. Yeah, Bearwell is the only tea that stood out for me. Then Dessford. Actually, we're going to go in this rank, yeah. Bearwell, then Dessford, Great Western, in the same kind of range, but these two pass right down at the bottom. They're not as bad as the Murray that I tasted last week, or the Stratford. You know, they're in the same. It's like you know, trying to choose, like, do you choose bullshit or do you choose horse shit? They're both shit, you know. This tea at the moment, it's not good. Usually these teas are very good. Out of season, I'm not liking what we're tasting. So I think the ones to keep the eye on at the moment is certainly Bearwell, Dessford, Great Western. It's there. These two really need to up their game. Holyrood and Somerset, if your managers are watching, up your game. I'm looking to come buy some tea from you guys come season, and I hope the tea improves, because you guys are wonderful estates, beautiful parts of the world. And you know, you make some good tea, but something is not going right with these two at the moment. Maybe it's the climatic factor, I don't know, but not good. Guys, tune in next week, this week for part 2 of Talawakelle tea tasting. Oh, big shout out to Gillian Kirk for dropping her comments in the section below. I will answer your email. In fact, I'm going to drop you an email straight after this. There's a bit of politics. You know how it is in Sri Lanka, you grew up there. But thank you so much for dropping your comments in the comment section below. Very interesting to hear about who you are and your experiences in Sri Lanka. If anybody else is watching these, lots of lurkers, drop your comments in the comment section below. I want to hear about what you guys are doing and what you guys are up to. I'm up at the Old Course Hotel this Sunday. If you're in Scotland or in St Andrews, join me. I'm talking about the history of tea. It's an event as part of the St Andrews Food Festival. If you want a job, hit me up, info@pmdt.co.uk, drop your CV or make a video and get my attention, because you're aiming to be a marketing manager, so do something to get my attention. Right guys, thank you for watching, have a great week, and I'll catch you soon on the next episode. Happy sipping.